Hey there, highlighters. Erin King here. Now, you have heard all about today's fabulous, fantastic, phenomenal guest. But here
Mhm.
she is, gals, in the flesh. My highlighters, please give a warm welcome to Amberly Lago. Amberly, welcome to my show.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for having me here. I was just having so much fun talking to you before we went live that I'm like, oh yeah, we're doing this live. So I have just admired you. I loved your book so much. And it's just an honor to finally get to see you and talk with you and connect with your community. So thank you
Mm.
for having me.
Well, vice versa. I spent the last week and just watched all of your incredible videos. I mean, your TED Talks, I had chills. I saw your interview with Megan Kelly and your poise and your grace and your courage, your grit and your grace and your courage um really just moved me on a level where I knew that my highlighters just had to get to know you if they don't already. Your book was a page turner. Your story is incredible. And I just think right now, the season that a lot of us are in right now, we really can use your message more than ever as we kind of go into Q4, maybe doing some reset from the last couple of weeks, months, maybe year and a half, right? So I mean, your message is always timely, but especially right now. So without further ado, Amberly, I mean, if you don't mind, I gave my highlighters the backstory of who you are and this journey that you've walked. But if you don't mind sharing with us in your own words, how you went from living the California life, you had your fitness empire, you were a dancer, and life was good. And then your entire world was in moments just turned upside down. So if it's okay, if you're comfortable talking about that, we'd love to hear it from your perspective.
Yeah, well, thank you. And thanks for watching my TED Talk and my interviews and stuff like that. That was actually really controlled anxiety. You said grace. And I'm like, I was so nervous to do those things, but I had that passion inside me that I was
Mhm.
like, this isn't about me. This is about the people I serve. And that always makes me feel better when I'm like, this isn't about me. This is about sharing some hope and some
Yeah.
inspiration. And it's been 11 years ago that my life completely just changed in the blink of an eye. I was coming home from work and we were talking about how much we love California, and it was one of those beautiful California days, the kind of day that when people see it makes people want to move to California. And I was on my motorcycle and I could feel the wind through my hair, and it just feels like freedom. And an SUV shot out of a parking lot, and I was thrown 30 feet, and I was sliding across Ventura Boulevard. And when I finally stopped, I looked down at my leg and it was completely just shattered into pieces. And I didn't realize this. My husband told me later. I was, strapped to the gurney, but they bagged me. And he's a first responder. Well, he retired now, but he's a lieutenant commander with the highway patrol. And he was hysterical because he knows what that means when they bag you. It means you're probably going to die.
Mm.
And so I was put in induced coma, and when I woke up, the first thing I learned was they said, "We're gonna have to amputate your leg. You've got a 1% chance of saving it. This is like a war wound." And so I heard, "You have a 1% chance," and that's what I chose to focus on. And I think that we could all use a little bit of hope, and I pray that no one out there has to get sideswiped by an SUV. And I had 34 surgeries and spent months in the hospital, and I pray nobody has to spend that much time in the hospital or go through that much pain. But I think all of us, and since March 2020, I will never forget, may have felt like we were sideswiped in some way. Maybe we woke up and your business was like, how the doors to your business shut down. Maybe being stuck at home in quarantine, you feel like you have that 1% chance of your marriage working out, or whatever it may be. But I feel like we are all called to tap into our innermost resilience. And learning how to be resilient isn't something that just you just learn and then you're resilient. It's kind of like going to the gym and wanting to get stronger. It's something that you really have to be willing to work on every single day. And the more that you can do it, anything that comes your way. And I think we've all learned that things don't often go as planned, but there are strategies that you can do to get you through hard times. There are ways to get unstuck. And there is, I live with pain every day still from a nerve disease I was diagnosed with as a result of the accident. It's called complex regional pain syndrome. So imagine getting through all these surgeries, and I was so proud, Aaron, I was so proud to finally be going to the doctor and standing upright, and
Wow.
I thought, "This doctor is gonna be so proud of me because 'cause I'm standing," and they said it would take me 2 years to walk again, and it's been 4 months, and I'm upright on crutches,
Wow.
only to be told, "You have something very serious," and I was like, "Yeah, duh, dude, I got hit by an SUV, of course it's serious."
Yeah, right.
And he said, "No, you have a nerve disease. Your life is never gonna be the same. You're gonna be permanently disabled, and you need to go home and get back in your wheelchair and just put your leg up." And at first, I was crushed, and living with this disease that's incurable, it's ranked highest on the pain scale. I thought, "This cannot be my life. This is not the life I wanna live. How can this be the rest of my life?" I felt like I had been getting given, like, a life sentence of hell, and
Mhm.
it really took me down a road of despair at first, and it was really when I took a good hard look at my life and realized that, yeah, we're not always in control of things that happen, but we do have the choice of taking our power back, and we can be the victor of our life and not the victim. And how you do that is we really start to choose really wisely what you put your attention on. And I started to focus on the good. And I think the easiest way to do that and to shift your perspective and change the way you feel about your situation is to get in gratitude. And look, if I can find gratitude when I'm stuck in a hospital bed, not knowing, is today the day they're going to amputate my leg, or,
Mm.
being grateful for my pain being a 7 because the day before it was 10, I think there's always something to be grateful for. And so I think that, if it's hard to be grateful, find somebody that you can be accountable to. So I think
Mhm.
it's really important. I have a God squad, and we reach out to each other every single day, and we text each other 10 things that we're grateful for. And sometimes I'm not gonna sit here and say it's easy. Sometimes it's hard, but when you share that gratitude with someone, and when I read on someone else's gratitude list that, here I was having a little pity party, I was having a bad day, and a friend of mine is going through cancer treatments, it really shifts your perspective.
Amberly, that story is unbelievable. And, we hear about gratitude journaling. Gratituding, I made up that word, I think, just now, but gratitude journaling, looking at the positive, surrounding ourselves with the types of women. You have your God squad. I have my besties, my she noters, and the women and men that we surround ourselves with, those inputs show up in our outputs and in how we feel about ourselves and talk about ourselves and how we can do hard things. But I just want to rewind a little bit and just understand, like, when that doctor said you need to go home and get back in that wheelchair after you were so proud of yourself for being ahead of the predicted timeline of recovery, um, how did you, like you said, you focus on the 1%, but like, is that how you've always been because you were born and raised in Texas? Have you done a ton of personal development work? Did you, I mean, help me understand, like, how did you get your head into a space where you were able to quiet the voices of doubt that I'm sure you battled with?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I do think that being raised in Texas, it's kind of in your DNA to find a way and to not give up before the miracle. It's like I grew up with, it was like, get her done, cowgirl up, the show must go on. And I think being an athlete and a dancer helped me with that.
Mhm.
But when I was told to go home and get back in my wheelchair, when I had fought so hard to stand up, I cried all the way
Mm.
home. I felt like I had been kicked in the gut. And, it's okay to cry and it's okay to have a pity party. We just can't stay there. So when I got home, I went straight to physical therapy. And they know me so well at physical therapy, they actually gave me a key to the facility. So I have a key to the PT place because I was there so much. But I got there that day and Terry said, Amberly, what are you doing here today? You don't even have an appointment. And I said, Terry, I know I don't have an appointment. I said, but I just learned something and I am going to have to work harder than I've ever worked
Mm.
if I want to have a life that I've always imagined.
Mhm.
And I get choked up about this because it's not easy. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not easy, but it's possible. And that's what I want people to know. Is
Mhm.
it just because somebody might doubt you or somebody might tell you, "Oh, you'll never make it," or "Go get back, go sit down. Don't shine too bright." Who do you think you are? You won't be able to do it, or whatever you tell yourself, that there is a way through those times, but we have to take action. For
Mhm.
me, I think resilience, I don't think it's about going back before the time that we were, healing's not going back. I don't think resilience is about bouncing back. I think because for so long, Aaron, I tried to fix what I thought was broken and I tried to just go back to my life before. And if you're listening and you've been struggling with this pandemic and you're like, I can't wait till my business is going back to the way that it used to be, or my marriage is going back. Maybe if you can wrap your mind around something even bigger and better, instead of going back, have the courage to move forward and choose a life filled with joy and laughter and imagine things better than they ever were before.
Yeah.
And to me, that's what resilience is. And I had to completely reinvent myself. And I had people say, well, how are you going to be a trainer again? And I thought, the first time somebody said that, I cried. I thought, "What do you mean I can't be a trainer? Of course I'm gonna be a trainer." I never imagined that I could reach people on a bigger level. And,
Yeah.
I think that when we have our heart open and we just have that little bit of belief in ourselves and we have somebody, thankfully I had an incredible doctor who changed my life. He didn't just save my leg with 34 surgeries. That doctor is who taught me how to love myself again because I
Mm.
hated myself. I hated the way I looked. I mean, I went from being an elite athlete sponsored by Nike, doing infomercials. I kicked my workout partner's butt. I mean, I ran, I beat him in my best time ever the day of my accident, and we were so
Oh.
competitive. To do all these things and to now look down at my body that didn't work properly. I'm scarred from the hip down, my ankles fused. As a dancer, not being able to point your toes is a big deal. All the dancers out there will feel me on that one.
Mhm.
So, in pain on top of it, I had this brilliant idea. I thought, "Well, I'm just gonna go to the doctor. I cannot take this pain anymore. I've tried everything. I've done every kind of treatment. I had $2.9 million worth of medical expenses. I had done Eastern, Western medicine. I was taking 73 homeopathic pills and 11 prescription medications. Nothing was working for my
Wow.
pain, so I went into the doctor. I said, "You know what? We need to just go ahead and cut it off. I know you've done all
Mm.
surgeries, but we need to cut my leg off. I can't take the pain anymore." And he
Mm.
did something that changed my life. He sat down in front of me and he didn't put my leg up on the table. He put my leg in his lap. And my first thought was, oh my gosh, he's putting my ugly, deformed leg on his nice white coat. And he put my leg in his lap and he looked at it like it was a miracle. Like, wow, this is his masterpiece. And something shifted in me. And I thought, wow, if he can look at my leg that way, maybe I can learn to look at it too,
Mm.
love it too, and start to appreciate it more. And it wasn't easy, but little by little, day after day, I started to love my leg and appreciate it more. And I started to really shift my mindset to gratitude and be grateful for my leg being able to hold me up, for the
Yeah.
healing that it was giving me, for everything. And it started to change my life. And so I think that if you're willing, if you have even a 1% glimmer of hope, if you have somebody that can love you until you love yourself, if you have a team around you who you can reach out to and reach out and be of service, that will get you out of your self-pity. That's what worked for me when I was stuck in the hospital bed for so long was, I had people say, "Well, how can you be of service when you're stuck in a hospital bed? What can you do?" There's so much you can do. Look, I had the nurses in the hospital come into my room, and I was giving them exercise advice while I was in the hospital on how to get out of bed. And so anything I could do to be of service, that made
Yeah.
me feel better, and it was a gift to them. It's full circle. And
Yeah.
so, when you're struggling, reach out and see how you can help somebody else.
Mm. Wow. I
I
mean,
know
I
that was
have
a long answer. I'm sorry.
no,
I just get
no,
passionate
do
about.
not apologize for this phenomenal story. I'm unpacking so much in my mind right now. I mean, there's so much what you just said. I mean, first of all, the fact that you are looking to see something in you that you have decided is ugly, and that is worthless, that is deformed, and that it took seeing the beauty in that and the resilience and the power in that through someone else's eyes, through that doctor's lens, in order to kind of make I guess, open up your mind to considering that, wow, maybe this isn't my albatross. Maybe this is my magic superpower. And that reframing is the second thing I want to talk about, which is you talked about the fact that our knee jerk reaction times like this tends to be we just want to go back to the way things were. We
Mm,
all had that retroactive longing when the pandemic hit, to your point, whether it was for our business, for our former life, for just living in a world where the COVID worry wasn't running in the back like a computer software program at all times.
mhm,
And I love what you said, which is that you're almost saying it's a beautiful distinction because you're almost saying like we have to break up with the past. We have to divorce the past, mourn the past. It's almost a divorce of what was. And then take a look at what's going forward and not try to restore something to its former grandeur, former glory, but instead redefine, create from scratch, begin anew, and write a completely new chapter, which is much different than trying to turn the page back and read the old one. So I feel like that distinction is huge for people that are listening right now, that it's not about getting things back to how they were, but deciding for yourself what this new beginning, this new venture, this new mindset is actually going to look like, just like you did. And the third thing that you said, which was super powerful and certainly made me rethink a couple of things, is that when things do get dark and you do get bad news and I have gotten my fair share of, in the last month, we had like two major horrible health scares in our family
mm.
and it's control the controllables. And what can you control, to your point? How can you show up and serve someone else? Because the fastest way to take yourself out of that darkness and move towards the light is to say, what can I offer? How can I serve? What can I share? And that will get you on the fast track to when you're giving and you're putting out what you can and showing up as best as you have in that dark moment, the light will start to find its way to you. And I love that's what you did lying in a hospital bed. You're like talking to these nurses saying, like, let's put down the Doritos and do some squats, girls. Like, we're all in this together. Like, I love that. I
Let
mean,
me
that's just
tell you, we
right.
had so much we ended up having fun. My room was the party room because I was on the orthopedic floor, so I was on the floor with mostly, people that were having hip replacements and knee replacements, and I had a room, I had my own fridge. The nurses would come in and sit and hide out in my room and tell me all their problems that was, and I was that glad that I could try to offer them some suggestions, kinda like my grandmother still does me, and to be of service that way. But, when anything comes up, things don't go as planned, we get bad news. If you can start to train yourself to your default is, "What can I do?
Yes.
What's next? What can I learn from this?" Okay, that didn't work. Well, what could work? I will tell you, in December, my daughter and I were riding our little razors, our little scooters. We during the pandemic, we started every night either riding our bikes or our scooters, and we were riding our scooters, and we were halfway through a crosswalk when a car couldn't see, I guess, and they came plowing through, hit both of us. This time it was me and my daughter. The scariest thing as a mom I could
Oh my
imagine
God.
is my daughter going to be under the car? Is my daughter going to, that's the first thought that I was thinking, is she going to be under the car? Luckily, we were both thrown and the car stopped. My first thought when I got her out of the street and in somebody's yard, and the paramedics got there right away, and when she's loaded and I know, okay, she's alive, I'm alive, we're in the hospital, my first thought was, God, what did I not learn the first time that I need to learn now? Show me what I need to learn. When we got in the hospital, Aaron, I was so grateful. The gratitude I
Mm,
had to be alive, that it could have been so much worse. The gratitude I had when the doctor came over and they said her CAT scan came back okay, her brain is okay.
mm.
It has a ripple effect on the people around you. Guess what? My daughter is so grateful, and I could see it for the first time in place when we were released about 5 hours later. And we're walking out of the hospital, and my daughter says, Mama, we were rolled in here on a gurney and we are walking out like champs. And I was like, oh my goodness.
Oh my
Like,
God.
she feels the gratitude that she could have taken on that victim mentality or mindset or whatever. She knew what to put her focus on,
Wow.
and so the more that we practice resilience and gratitude and we're of service, it has a ripple effect around the people that we love, and
Yeah.
sometimes people we have no idea, and so that's what I want to do, is show people that there are so many ways to create the life that you could never imagine. And it was interesting. I just interviewed my husband for the first time on my podcast this week.
Brave.
It took me 99 episodes to finally
Mm.
convince him to be on the podcast.
Teach me your ways. My husband has said heck
You
no
won't?
about 10 times. But anyway, I want to hear how yours went, and then I'll know whether or not it was a good move that he said no.
Well, you know what? He's brutally honest, and it's good, but he really, yeah, it was hard to hear some of the things that he said,
Mm,
but one of the things he was saying was, I said, "What would you do if you could change one thing about our relationship?" And he said, "I would have you rest more." And
mm,
that's a big reminder for me. I mean, I talk about this pacer method that I came up with, and so I heard him in that interview, and I think that we all need to think about resting as really an important aspect of resilience, that it's not a luxury that we do. We don't get rewarded for rest by getting through our to-do list, that resting should be on our to-do list, that we should be on the top of our to-do list, that our health is the most important thing. And that's one thing that I've really learned through this pandemic and being sick with COVID last month was, wow, stop and ask yourself, are you really taking care of yourself? Like, are
yeah,
you doing everything you can to be as strong as you can? And I had a girlfriend of mine that she said, your impact is only as strong as you are healthy. And I was like,
yeah.
wow,
Wow.
it hit home.
Well
And
said.
so I encourage, others to remember to rest, and that's part of
Yeah.
being resilient. And my husband reminded me of that again. I'm not good at it. I'm really not
Yeah.
good at it, and it's something that I say, and I'm reminding myself just as much because
Right.
yeah.
Well, we preach what we need to learn the most sometimes, right? So I love that phrase that the impact is only as good as your health. And I think it's interesting because when you talk about all my highlighters listening that are facing down their own tough season of whether they're battling COVID or reinventing their business, or they are battling an illness for themselves or a loved one, whatever their albatross is at this moment. Sometimes we really can just get paralyzed by the overwhelm of it. And
Mhm.
I was talking to a client the other day, and she just kept, talking about seeing this whole staircase, and it just looked like Mount Everest in terms of climbability. And she was just, her voice was racing and her anxiety was growing, and this and this and it's just impossible and overwhelming. And what I love that you're kind of recommending to my highlighters is exactly what I said to her. It's like, we don't have to know how we're going to get to the top. We just need to start moving in the right direction, just taking that first little bitty step, even if it is not skipping your walk or not skipping your workout or working in a veg or drinking that gallon of water, or just like something so simple and controllable as what you're putting in your mouth or how you're moving your body. And it's that ripple effect, to use your phrase, that I think can help give us that feeling of clarity and calm, where it's like, okay, it's not ideal. It's definitely complicated. We're not saying it's easy, but it's challenging, not impossible. And I think that's like the feeling we all want to have, is like, this is challenging, but it's not impossible. And it's that 1%, that 1% hope that I love that you brought up. And I just think your story is incredible. I mean, the fact that you've been through such a tragic accident, have such a positive outlook on life, have come out the other side with this awful incident with your daughter and with COVID. And here you are, and you're embarking on this new chapter, heading back to Texas after 31 years in Southern California.
It's crazy, I know.
New page, new chapter. It's so exciting. And I hope my highlighters listening are taking all this from you, and that they check out your book, Grit and Grace, and follow you on Instagram and all the things, because you are truly the real deal. So I really appreciate you sharing all of your stories. You're a great storyteller as well, here with us today.
Thank you so much, and yeah, I appreciate you bringing up the book, and I had somebody ask me, they're like, they really wanted to know because they couldn't walk. They were in a wheelchair they were diagnosed with the same nerve disease, and they said, "But how did you learn to walk again?" And I said, "It was literally seconds at a time. It
Mm,
was breaking it down. If I would have thought all I wanted to do was be able to chase my daughter. I wanted to
yeah,
be able to chase after her. But if I focused on that, it would have been too overwhelming. I would have, like, spiraled down into despair, and so what I focused on was today, I am gonna think so much about being able to move my leg off the bed because at first I couldn't even move it, there was a disconnect, and so I think that breaking like what you were saying, really starting with one stair at a time. If your goal is to lose 50 pounds, don't focus on the 50 pounds. You
right.
focus on the half a pound or the pound
Hmm.
and what you can do. For me, it was focusing on being able to stand up. When I wrote my book, it was writing sometimes one paragraph at a time. And so I think if you can break those goals down into, I mean, you should see my desk. Seriously, there are sticky notes everywhere because I like to break those big goals into little goals that I can accomplish. And I don't know about you, but doesn't it feel good to cross things off your list? Like, I did that. I did it.
Yeah, it's so true. And it's so doable. And to use, your exact example, it comes down to seconds. In 2 seconds, 1, 2, 3 seconds, you either try to move the leg or you don't. You put your sneakers on or you don't. Put the wine glass down and pick up the prayers or whatever it is for you. It happens in seconds.
That's
Like our entire
powerful.
life comes down to seconds, like you said. And so, how will you spend not your life, not your month, not your week, 90-day challenge? How will you spend? Forget 90-day challenge. How about a 90-second challenge? How about a 9-second challenge, right? Like, let's
Yeah.
really not lower the bar, but let's break this down to the moments where your accident happened in seconds. Our lives are made, or can be, can be made into something beautiful or something tragic in seconds. And I love that micro reframing of it. It feels doable, it feels controllable, and it feels like really the way to stop seeing the whole 50 pounds or the whole walk again, which is kind of how people, a lot of us, can feel sometimes, especially trying to come back from this pandemic. I mean, sometimes you're just like, will we ever get back to where we were? And we talked about today, that's not the question anymore. It's what is the next chapter going to look like? And I love how you've redefined yours, especially in the face of something so wild. I mean, you are the walking embodiment of really walking the walk, literally, of being resilient. So I
Thank
admire you. I adore you. I think you're fabulous. Um,
you.
your book is definitely going to be on the show notes. I encourage all my highlighters to check out Amberly's book, Grit and Grace. It's so good. And speaking of books, because we're all bibliophiles here on the Highlights podcast, do you have any books, by the way, that you are reading right now that have just made you just lean forward and lose an afternoon because you are just so enraptured? Like any good books lately that you're reading?
Yeah, well, I have if you could see my office floor, I have one of the great things about interviewing people on my podcast is I always buy their book and read their book before I have them on the show. So I have a stack of books, but when you asked me this, I just interviewed Jess Ekstrom. I have her book on my desk.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's
Okay.
called Chasing the Bright Side. I love this woman, first of all. She's freaking amazing, and I love supporting female authors, but it's called Chasing the Bright Side. Embrace optimism, activate your purpose, and write your own story. And she's the founder of Headbands for Hope and just a cool, cool lady doing good things in the world. And so I love her book. I'm the kind of person that likes books. I like Audible books as well. So I love listening to books while I'm working out, but I love having a book and, highlighting things in it and turning the page down and quoting things. So yeah, I'm glad you asked that question, but I have so many.
Yeah. Well, we need to get Jess on the podcast. Maybe you can introduce. I think we actually are Instagram friends, so we'll see if we can maybe get her on the podcast and hear more about her book as well. Because to your point, I mean, my podcast is called Highlights because it's all about highlighting those moments and bringing them off the pages and into our lives, and that's kind of my why, and sounds like yours too. So, just really special to connect with you, Amberly, and I'm so thankful for your time today. And best of luck with your big new adventure. I hope to be able to see you live, maybe in Dallas next time we're both there for a gig. We can connect, and
I know. I hope
yeah, it'd be
we'll be
great.
sharing the stage and dancing on stage together someday. That would be so much fun. You're such an incredible speaker. So yeah, I would love that. But
Oh,
thank
same.
you again for having me on. And if you're listening and want some ways to tap into your resilience, you can just text me the word grit at 818-214-7378, and it'll give you kind of I like to call it playbook. I think we all need to play more playbook on how to tap into your superpower of resilience. And I really hope that helps your listeners tap into their resilience daily with whatever struggles. But Erin, you're amazing. And I just love your show. I love what you're doing. And I feel so grateful to be here with you right now. So thank you again for just this opportunity. I'm so excited I finally got to talk with you.
Same here, Amberly. Thanks a million, and I hope we talk to you soon. I appreciate you so much. Take care.